He's like, I love this. This is amazing. This is the career path that I want. I mean, those kind of things.
Yeah.
That's awesome. We got a guest, everybody. Come on in here. We're talking creatives, and we're joined by a creative.
Please sit.
I'm going to give you this mic here. How are you? Lance Kramer. Welcome to the Project Nerd Couch. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. My pleasure. My name's Q. This is
nice
Aaron, or her tag says Dane. So
it does say Dane. They did misprint it. You can call me
Aaron.
either one.
Spelled Aaron, Dane. And then Leah.
Hi.
Hey, Leah. How are you?
Good. How are you?
So we were
no
just...
alternate name. Just
no,
Leah.
No, they got hers
my
right.
name right because I'm more important.
I get it.
So I want to know about your film particular, The First Step, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Would you give our live audience kind of a description and idea of the film and what it's about?
Sure. So the film, it's called The First Step.
Yep.
It's a feature-length documentary. We finished it earlier this year. It premiered at Tribeca. So it's very new.
Very new.
And it's a film about a guy named Van Jones, who's a lot of people know because he's on CNN as a political commentator. He's on CNN because for 25 plus years, he has been an activist fighting against police brutality, fighting for criminal justice reform, environmental justice, a number of causes, progressive causes.
Sure.
And under the Trump era, Van decided to work across party lines to try and advance criminal justice reform and improve the response to the addiction crisis.
Sure.
And basically break ranks with a lot of his other fellow progressives to try and get something done to help people. So the film is about Van and then people on the left and the right who he worked with to try and build this bipartisan coalition to accomplish prison reform, criminal justice reform, while Trump was in office.
Sure.
Which, as you can probably imagine, was a nearly impossible task.
For sure.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, he and the people in the coalition passed this bill that has to date led to an early release of more than almost 20,000 nonviolent
That's incredible.
offenders, but also was very controversial.
Sure.
So the film is kind of about like the perils but also potential of trying to be a bridge builder in a very divided climate.
Sure. Hence the first step, right? Yeah. Somebody's got to take that.
Well,
first step.
Yeah, exactly. It's about like what does it look like to even just try to take that first step.
Right. Yeah. That is a huge subject matter.
Yeah.
Like,
what made you want to make that movie?
I mean, going back to there's things in the film that are themes that so I made the film with my brother who directed the film. I produced it, and there's a lot of themes in the film that I feel like we've been exploring as long as we've been filmmakers, about just kind of the trying to understand the almost like the nuances of trying to accomplish social change from a very human perspective. That's just always, it's been something I've been interested in. It's like, if you actually want to make change, you want to change the world, you want to improve someone's life, like what does that actually look like?
That's
and it's most
common
like
theme
human.
this weekend.
Yeah, like just basic level. Turns out it's very hard and messy. Oftentimes very messy. It's not clean. And so with that in mind, like this film in particular, going back to 2016 when we started working on it, in the wake of Trump becoming president, especially on the left, there was a lot of fear, a tremendous amount of fear about what was going to happen to all these issues that people have fought for decades, if not longer, especially criminal justice reform, where there was just so much concern that any of the even minute ground that had been advanced on that issue was just going to fall back, light years. And so we were really interested in like how to tell a story about someone or a group of people who were trying to do something to protect or even advance that issue at a time when it seemed like there was no hope. And so, and also in particular, just the idea of trying to bring people together at a time when it seemed like the divisions were just escalating.
Everything was
just splitting.
It didn't matter what you thought, how you felt. you just ended up on one party line or the other.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that that's a really interesting subject matter, especially considering. So we talked with the director of Ferguson Rises.
Yeah, Mobilaji. Yeah,
amazing
super
guy.
nice.
But had a wonderful conversation, and in it he kind of spoke to those. He sat down and during that filmmaking process sat with people that he didn't necessarily agree with their points of views, but had to realize and kind of look at the perspective that these are also still people. You know what I mean? And whether you agree with their views or not, it doesn't help anything to stop advancing the conversation, because without that conversation, we're stagnant.
Well, and he had a good point too, in that a lot of the people were disagreeing with each other's approach to certain protests. Some people wanted to remain silent. Some people wanted to actually protest. But a lot of people had the same goal.
Yeah.
They wanted the same outcome, but they had started to butt heads about how to get there. And I think that a lot of us really want the same things so much of the time, but we lose sight of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing that the film explores through what Van was working on was that one of the things that he realized was that on some of these issues, and in particular the addiction crisis, which has a relationship to the criminal justice system, because for decades so many people who were addicts and not violent offenders or drug dealers were locked up for inhumane sentences, and lost their lives basically to lifetime incarceration. And one of the things Van realized was that people in communities like South LA, where there had been mass incarceration applied for decades in this manner, mostly for crack and cocaine sentences, and basically had been overlooked by a lot of the country, and just felt where Democrats and Republicans thought that was the right thing to do.
Right.
Now there's this new lens that's being applied to addiction because more rural, white, conservative communities have been so badly hit by the opioid crisis.
Sure.
Yes.
And now people are dying in communities that are very different than South LA. Van kind of realized that this common pain that was experienced by communities of color, white communities, rural, urban, conservative, progressive, even if there were all those differences, there was that common reference point of pain.
Yes.
Either personal through their own experience or through family members or loved ones. And that created even just the smallest sliver of an opening to just then understand and listen to each other, and then potentially even work together.
Sure.
And so that's part of then what the film is also exploring, is like, you might still be stuck disagreeing on all these other things, but if you had that one thing in common, could you actually
have
build
this
from there?
starting point to open the discussion?
That's fantastic. I have a question in regards to, and we've talked a lot of the documentaries, especially here this year, that are showing at Tallgrass, they're dealing with a lot of these kind of very serious conversations and topics. And as a documentary filmmaker, as this filmmaking team, how do you approach a subject matter like that with a point of telling the story but not sensationalizing the story, like communicating the point without making it a spectacle? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that would be a very hard line to walk, and not turn it into like propaganda, as opposed to kind of really trying to educate and tell this story.
Yeah, I mean it's a really good question, and I think part of it is like you have to really remind yourself that like you're like, this is real people who are going through like real problems, real struggles. It could just as easily be you. And the second that you start to think like, oh, well, I'm just like insulated from all this because I'm on the other side of the camera, and then it's just like that other person that's on the, in front of the camera, and there's this kind of like fake distance between us, then I think that's where you can start to get into trouble.
Yeah.
And then, race and class and power and all those things then just compound that whole dynamic, or can. So I think that, building a real relationship with people that extends past a like filmmaker subject relationship, and it's just like, I actually want to know you. I need to earn your trust, as a friend or just as someone, as an equal. is important. Thinking about how you would want someone to tell your own story, like how would I want someone to treat me,
Sure.
is critical. Spending a lot of time with people beyond whatever you're filming. So
Sure.
before, during, after, like really saying, if you're going to be in our film, if we're going to make this together, we're like,
we're
we're partners in this. And also then on a practical level for us, for people who are sharing something in the film that really is like vulnerable, sharing something that's painful or struggle, at the end of the process, the edit process before a film is finished, we share the film with them.
Oh, great.
And we basically ask for their blessing. You know, can we move forward? Can we share this film with audiences?
That's great.
And you know, some people say, oh, that's not journalistic. It's like, we're not doing journalism.
Right. You're trying to tell
a piece of art.
Yeah,
so it's like, and
Absolutely.
it's collaborative in that sense. And I don't feel like we can authentically or ethically bring something out into the world
if someone like, hey, I didn't,
because it's just going to cause way more harm
to
them, and it's just not fair.
Yeah.
But people do that all the time.
Exactly.
You see it. And it makes me feel really gross when I see that. I don't want to contribute.
And I think you can tell a lot too when you watch
that.
a documentary. You can tell if there's an ingenuousness there to it, and if it's somebody just like, you know, making a reality show and piecing things together to look a certain way.
Yeah, trying to get fake stakes or hype up the fake stakes, or just, you know, create something that's sensationalized, or to your point, propaganda.
Cutting
or just
out pieces of conversations to make it look like they went a different direction.
Exactly. And especially if there's a commercial push to do that and almost like profit off someone's pain.
Yes.
Then that could be, you know, horrible.
Yeah. No, I really respect.
I wish this conversation could go on all day, because I love it. I think this is a very sincere part of filmmaking, and something that is important and kind of often overlooked in regards to documentaries, is especially when you're dealing with these kind of sensitive subject matters. It's important to make sure that you're, like you said, you retain that art value of it, as opposed to a news doc, you know, kind of thing. Now, I do want to ask, where and when is your film showing? Has it shown this weekend already?
Yes. So our film played last night at the Orpheum.
Awesome.
So it's too late to see it at the Orpheum.
Sure.
It was a great screening.
Sure.
Awesome.
But I guess the good news is that there's other opportunities to see it.
Perfect.
So Tallgrass has their virtual platform that starts on Sunday, tomorrow. So folks can see it on the website, I think starting at 10 a.m. tomorrow.
Perfect.
And then we'll be at a bunch of other film festivals afterwards.
What is the next festival you guys are heading to?
On Monday, we'll be at the United Nations Association Film Festival, which is in Palo Alto.
Awesome.
We'll be at the Virginia Film Festival in Charlottesville, Denver, St. Louis, film festival called River's Edge, which is in Kentucky.
Yeah.
Hawaii Film Festival, and a couple others
Love it.
too.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And where can people find more about the film and more about you guys?
So there's a website called The First Step, or firststepfilm.com.
Perfect.
And that's where we list all the screenings, virtual and in person. And then for social media, it's First Step Movie on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And if people see the film, you know, it's an independent film. It doesn't have distribution.
Sure.
So actually, really for us, like for people to, you know, watch the film, say something on social media, tag us, tag if there's a platform you love that you think this film should be on, tag that platform.
I think
and
there's
say,
one coming Q1 of 2022, actually.
Say, you know, we think you should be on this platform. Like just anything we can do to keep the conversation going.
Great.
Absolutely.
I love that.
It's a good conversation to have.
Thank you so much for sitting down with us and talking about the film. I love it.
Thanks
Sounds amazing.
Thanks for having me.